got chain sliders tacked into place. I'll weld them together later, but I bought some limiting straps for this thing. These are for the rear, and I also bought some for the front, so let's figure out where these are going. I'm trying to figure out where to mount these where this isn't going to hit the tire when the suspension moves all the way up. We don't want this, you know, going into the tire and the tire grabbing this. We don't want it to also hit the chain either, or the bump stop. So I think the best way to mount this is just from here to here. I'll lift the suspension up an inch, so by the time this grabs and stops the suspension, it's not at the full maximum, you know, extension of the shocks. I think I'm just gonna mount it from here to here and maybe make it move this way, and hopefully it's not going to hit the chain whenever the suspension fully collapses. I don't know. We'll try it. So originally I was going to mount this from here to here, and that would bend out of the way, but now I'm looking at it, I think it's just going to hit the chain and rub against the chain. So now I'm thinking, what if I mount it from here to here? That way it bends out this way instead of this way, and it kind of goes parallel with the chain. I think that's going to be the best option. Nice. It moves out of the way. It's not going to hit the chain, not going to hit the bump stop. Nice. Whoops. Well, yep, let me re-tack that back into place. I didn't think that was going to break off. Nice. Well, it works, you know, once I fully weld it together. Alright, I kind of forget which way this goes. I think it's upside down. Really? I shouldn't really be getting underneath this thing because it's only being held up by the roof, and that's it. So maybe don't climb underneath it. Alright, sway bar is installed. I also got the linkage hooked up to the trailing arms. Look at that. Nice. So there is a pretty good amount of movement between when, you know, this has free movement and it starts picking up the other side. But yeah, we don't want this sway bar, we don't want it to be too stiff. We want it to still allow for flex. We just want it to limit it just a little bit, which I think it's perfect. And then try it on this side. Yep, same thing. Nice. Because I've always planned on putting 2 sway bars on this. Basically, I want to have this sway bar that we just put on here permanently installed, and then I want to have a second sway bar. I want to build another one, basically the same how we built a sway bar for the mini rock crawler project, where we can unlock it and lock it, so therefore when we're going over rocks and rock crawling, when we want the suspension to flex, we can unlock the second sway bar and allow for a lot more suspension flex. And then at Durham Town on the GP track and turbo track, we can lock it in and heavily limit the sway of the rear suspension. So I've always planned on putting 2 sway bars on this thing, so I think this one being not too stiff is perfect, because we don't want the first one being too stiff and then the second one being really stiff. Yeah, I think that one is perfect. And we'll probably install the second sway bar some other time. You know, we don't really need to do it right now. I may do it after we get the engine running and everything. I didn't make these long enough. So I definitely made these a little bit too short. They don't reach, so I made some longer ones. Now this is hitting. Clearance problems, they're always fun. So unfortunately, the longer ones won't fit on here, but we need the longer ones for it to reach when it's all the way pushed back. But it's not all the way pushed back right now. It's mostly pushed forward to tighten the chain, and I just have to move it back a tiny little bit. So the shorter ones will work. I just needed the longer ones to have the full amount of travel to, you know, have these work. I'm trying to think, can I lift this up? But then I can't have the bolt go over this, because this is where the bump stop hits. So I can't have a bolt over this. So I'm just gonna have to use the smaller one on this side, and if I ever have to bring these out a little bit further, I'll just have to swap to the longer ones. Alright, check it out. Pretty much got everything on the trailing arms finished that we needed to do. We got the chain slides, we got the chain tensioners installed, we got the limiting straps installed, as well as the sway bar. So that's pretty much it for all the stuff we need to do for the trailing arms, which means that we can move on to working on installing the secondary transmission. Now, before we install this in the frame, we do need to do a couple modifications to this transmission. Now, for those that don't remember, this is a T90 Jeep transmission, and we're using this to give us high, medium, and low range for this project, as well as reverse. Now, it's basically the exact same setup that we have in the CBR 1000 project, and it's been working great for that thing, so hopefully it'll work great for this project as well. We just have to do a slight modification to this because turns out we're actually spinning this transmission backwards. It's supposed to turn clockwise. We're turning this counterclockwise, which I didn't know that when I first put it in the CBR 1000 project, and then that explains why it kept popping out of second gear on that thing. That's why I had to back cut the teeth for second gear, and then once we did that, it's been working great ever since, so we're probably going to have to do the same thing to this one to get it to work for this project. As well as I did buy another first and reverse gear for this thing, because the one in here is old and kind of worn down. So I'm watching my old video to try and remember how in the world I did this. I'm trying to remember which side I put the bevel on. And I have to remember, this spins this, not the other way around. That's important. So it spins in this direction. So therefore I have to put the bevel on this side of the teeth, not this side, and put the bevel this way. Yeah, basically I'm just gonna copy what I did last time and hopefully it'll work again. I mean, it worked last time, so I just gotta do it again. So like I said, I found a new first and reverse gear. So this is the original one. You can tell it's kind of heavily worn, it's old, it's probably original to this transmission, and this is the new one I found on eBay. You can definitely tell they're a lot better. This one's in a lot better shape. Can this thing focus? There it goes. Yeah, this one's just heavily worn down, it's old. This is the new one, it's in much better shape. So I'm pretty sure this one would have worked, but it's better just to replace it with a new one. Why is this thing like moldy? Look at this. It's like moldy or like mildew, or I don't know what is on this thing, or maybe it's just from the surface of this metal. It's just dirty, I don't know. Alright, transmission is back together. I think it's working. Definitely seems to be working, so let's put this thing in the frame. Alright, it's in place. Kind of. We need to put the chain on and set tension. Transmission is now reinstalled. Before we reinstall the engine, let's finish the skid plates underneath this thing. So I already cut them out, we just have to bolt them in place. Alright, is that high enough? I can't believe it's going in so easy. There's gotta be something that I'm missing that's gonna be an issue. Yeah, it first fit in way too easy, so now, of course, I gotta have issues, and now nothing lines up. This bolt's not lining up, this hole's not lining up, everything just warped once I welded it. So now I gotta figure out how to move everything to get it to where it now lines up. So, alright, so I pulled out the two bolts in the back, so now it's all... I'll get these lined up first, and then I'll have to put those in last. There we go. Now it's moving. Alright, engine is now in the frame. That was kind of a challenge because there were certain, these holes would not line up. I ended up having to take files to them and move them a little bit to get the bolt to go through. But it is now in place. Alright, next, let's work on the shifter for the engine. Now, for some reason, I completely forgot to buy the little shift lever that fits on this, because we definitely need that to be able to build the shifter for this engine. Now, I quickly stole this off of the little mini rock crawler project, so we'll just use this for now. Fits perfectly on here, and I'll just replace it on that project later. Now, I'm trying to figure out where's the best spot for this shifter. I want it pretty close to the steering wheel where we can easily shift this thing, as well as we can still shift it with the seat all the way forward. Yeah, we can still shift it. Because remember, this is for the motorcycle transmission. We also have to have a shifter for the secondary transmission that has to go in the middle. On the CBR 1000 I have it on this side, but we can't do that because the door's right here. Either I would have to make the shifter like really low, which doesn't really work, or just have it to where, yeah, it doesn't make sense. So we got to put it on this side, so we have to have room for the motorcycle transmission shifter and the secondary shifter, which is going to have to go somewhere here. Yeah, I think this one's a pretty good spot just right here. Alright, so the shifter for the engine is installed. Now, truth be told, I kind of hate it. There's a couple things I want to fix on it, just because it just doesn't really work that well. First of all, there's too much movement between gears. I need to shorten the shift lever coming off the engine by like a third. I think that'll make it to where it's a little bit better and it's not so much movement between the gears, and it's going to be a little easier to shift. Second is why is there so much play in this? I kind of want to fix that. And the way that I had to do this bar right here, I had to bend it up and then back down to clear the chain and everything. That makes it to where it flexes, so it's not really a rigid setup. So I kind of want to shorten this by a little bit and get rid of. I didn't think about that, having a heavy piece of metal on top as the shift handle, or shift knob, whatever it's called, and because that's kind of making it kind of top heavy a little bit, and using this thicker metal right here, so it's kind of a little top heavy. It's definitely not helping with its movement and all that kind of stuff, so it's a couple things I want to fix on it, and then we can start working on the secondary transmission shifter. Now, I've been trying to figure out how we're going to do that, because I did see an idea that a way that I could do it. I saw something on Instagram years ago of basically how somebody had a H-pattern transmission shifter. He had his shifter handle over here and he connected it basically just with square tubing so I can move back and forth and side to side. That we could do that, but because the transmission is sideways, that would mean our H pattern is sideways, which wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would mean that we would move side to side to go into gear, so basically be first, reverse, and then third, second. Is that the end of the world? I don't know. But it wouldn't be, I don't know, I kind of want to see if I can do some complicated shift, linkage, setup, something, to make it to where it's a normal H pattern where you move forward and back to go into the gears, and neutral is doing that. So I kind of want to see if I can do that, but we'll do all that in the next video of this project, because I need to, I need to move on. So. But we are getting close to being able to start working on wiring on this thing. There's only a couple more things we need to do. Once we finish the shifters, I need to install the brake lines, get all that stuff hooked up, the clutch line, the hydraulic line for the clutch, get that installed, get that working, and also possibly the throttle for the throttle pedal and radiator. We got to hook up all that. So you got to do a couple things with the engine and gas tank and all that kind of stuff, and then we can start working on wiring boxes, battery boxes. I really want to do for this project, I really want to do the wiring proper this time and not just have the wiring all zip tied in a bundle, zip tied to either the hot engine or just the side of the frame. I don't want to do that for this project. I really want to be able to take my time and do the wiring right, have an actual wiring box and all that kind of stuff. So we got to figure out where that's going to go and build the wiring box and all that kind of stuff. But we'll do all that in the next couple of videos of this project. But for now, I got to end this video here. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.